What if one day you realized you were never a husband, just an ATM? One ordinary evening, he overheard a conversation that wasn't meant for his ears. A single careless joke, tossed out with a laugh among friends. And that was all it took to change everything. Love? Support? No, just convenience. A financial safety net, replenished year after year, until one day, he finally opened his eyes. That's when the game changed. But this time, the rules were different. No more free withdrawals. How far would you go after realizing you've been used? What happens when the provider stops providing? This isn't a story about revenge. It's about waking up, about the last straw, about how easily love can turn into a transaction, and what happens when one side decides to walk away. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now, let's get started. I wasn't supposed to hear it. The conversation wasn't meant for me, but life has a strange way of revealing the truths we aren't looking for. That evening, my wife had a small gathering at our home, inviting a handful of her close friends over for dinner. It was nothing unusual. She thrived in moments like these, enjoying the opportunity to show off the house, the refined decor, the elaborate meals she didn't prepare but took full credit for. I had never minded. If indulging in the illusion of high society made her happy, if curating an effortless, privileged existence was what she lived for, I had no objections. Or at least, I didn't, until that night. Exhausted from a long day, I walked into the kitchen for a drink before heading upstairs to change. That's when I heard it. A friend of hers, laughing, made a passing comment about how lucky my wife was, living a carefree life without concerns over bills, work, or responsibility. At first, it seemed like harmless banter, just the kind of casual chatter that fills the room during nights like these. But then my wife responded, and her words stopped me cold. "Marriage is basically like having an ATM beside you in bed," she quipped, setting off a wave of laughter. "Why stress about money when you have someone who just keeps it coming?" she added, clearly enjoying the moment. "Most of the time, I don't even have to ask. He just handles it, like he should." My fingers tightened around the glass, like he should. That was the instant everything changed. It wasn't the joke itself, but what lay beneath it, the entitlement, the complete lack of appreciation. She wasn't speaking about me as a partner, as someone she respected or cared for. In her mind, I was nothing more than a source of wealth, a provider, a safety net. I should have walked in right then. I should have made her see the weight of her words, but I didn't. Instead, I stayed where I was, listening as the conversation carried on, their laughter ringing through the house. "You've got it made," one of her friends teased. "How did you manage to pull that off so effortlessly?" My wife grinned. "Easy. Work smart, not hard." More laughter. Something inside me shifted. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was clarity. Slowly, I placed my glass down, drawing in a deep breath. I had dedicated everything to this marriage, my time, my effort, my financial security. I had built a life with this woman under the belief that we were a team. But to her, I was merely an endless supply of money, a walking paycheck. I didn't need to hear anything else. Without a word, I left the kitchen, walked upstairs, and changed into something more comfortable. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing, letting the realization sink in. A part of me wanted to believe she hadn't meant it like that she was just caught up in entertaining her friends. But deep down, I knew better. Jokes like that don't come from nowhere. They come from truth. That night, I said nothing. I didn't confront her. I didn't reveal that I had heard every word. Instead, I did something I should have done a long time ago. I started paying attention. For too long, I had been running on autopilot. I had worked tirelessly to ensure she had everything she desired. Vacations, designer shopping sprees, unexpected emergencies that always required financial support. I covered it all without question, convincing myself that this was simply what a husband was supposed to do. But after what I had overheard, one question refused to leave my mind. Was this a marriage, or just a financial arrangement dressed up as one? The next morning, sitting at my desk, I logged into my bank accounts. Initially, it was mere curiosity. I wanted to see how much I had spent on her in the past few months, but the deeper I went, the more unsettling the truth became. Credit card statements were a parade of extravagant expenses, luxury clothing, handbags, and shoes I had never seen her wear. Thousands of dollars gone without a second thought. Spa treatments, salon appointments, expensive brunch outings, and a mountain of impulsive online orders, all accumulating into an eye-watering total. And then there were the bigger purchases. A $5,000 work trip that was anything but. Jewelry she had claimed was a gift from her mother. High-end decor she insisted was a steal, but the receipts painted a different story. Leaning back in my chair, I stared at the screen. She wasn't just spending my money, she was burning through it like it had no limit. And I had been too blind to see it. But it wasn't just about the money. It was the pattern. I thought back to our relationship. When was the last time she had done something for me? Something that didn't revolve around spending my money? When had she last cooked a meal just because she wanted to? When had she planned a night out without expecting me to foot the bill? When had she even asked me how I was doing? The answer was as painful as it was clear. Never. For years, I had given my all to this marriage, my love, my energy, my resources. I had worked myself into exhaustion to provide for her, to keep her happy. And in return, she had only ever taken. She had contributed nothing, not emotionally, not financially, not in any of the small but meaningful ways that define a real partnership. And the worst part? She believed she was entitled to it all. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't love. This wasn't respect. It wasn't even a marriage. It was a transaction. And I was done playing my role. I remembered the way she had laughed so effortlessly when she called me an ATM, the light-hearted ease with which she had tossed out, as he should, as if my only role in this marriage was to finance her lifestyle. That moment had lingered in my mind, embedding itself deeper each time I thought about it. Now, as I shut my laptop, the truth settled over me with an icy finality. She had never loved me, only the comfort, security, and luxury that being with me provided. I could no longer ignore it. I wasn't about to argue or seek validation. I wouldn't waste another breath trying to convince her that I was more than just a paycheck. Number I had seen enough. She had spoken her truth freely, and I had listened. Now, it was my turn to act. That night, long after she had gone to bed, I remained awake. I revisited my financial accounts, not just to inspect them, but to take decisive action. The first thing I did was revoke her access. Every credit card, every financial resource tied to me, gone. The ones she used for her impulsive shopping sprees, extravagant brunches, even those in her name but backed by my accounts, I shut them all down. I didn't just put a temporary hold on them, I closed them permanently. Then, I reset every password to my bank accounts. No more effortless transactions, no more frivolous withdrawals without thought or consequence. No more silent, unchecked spending on luxuries she never felt the need to justify. After that, I combed through the list of automatic payments, subscriptions she had signed up for, indulgences she enjoyed without a second thought, erased. That overpriced spa membership, terminated. The exclusive gym she rarely attended but insisted on keeping, canceled. The personal stylist sending her designer outfits monthly, discontinued. When I was done, I leaned back in my chair and exhaled deeply. For the first time in years, I felt like I was in control of my own life. The next morning, I waited. I remained silent. I wanted to see how long it would take for her to notice the shift. It didn't take long. By noon, my phone vibrated. A text from her. Hey, my card just got declined. Can you check if something's wrong with the bank? I ignored it. 10 minutes later, another message followed. Babe, I think there's an issue with our credit account. My other card isn't working either. Still, I didn't respond. Then came the call. I let it ring. Eventually, I walked into the living room and found her sitting on the couch, phone in hand, frustration etched across her face. Did something happen with the bank? She asked, expecting this to be some kind of mistake. I sat down across from her. No, I said flatly. I cut off the cards. She blinked. What? I shut down the accounts, canceled the subscriptions and changed the passwords. You no longer have access to my money. A heavy silence filled the room. For a moment she almost laughed, as if waiting for me to admit it was a joke. But when she saw my expression, the amusement vanished. You're serious? Dead serious. Her expression twisted, confusion flickering into disbelief before hardening into anger. Why the hell would you do that? I leaned back, unshaken. Because I finally understand what this marriage actually is, and I refuse to be used any longer. She scoffed, shaking her head as if I were being irrational. Oh, come on. This is about that stupid conversation with my friends? You're blowing this way out of proportion. I held her gaze. Am I? She rolled her eyes. You're my husband. It's your job to take care of me. That's how relationships work. I almost laughed at the audacity. Number. That's how this relationship has worked, but not anymore. Her frustration boiled over. So what? You're just cutting me off like I'm some random person? Without hesitation, I responded, no. Like someone who never saw me as anything more than a bank account. I had expected a fight, a desperate attempt to guilt-trip me into reversing my decision. Instead, she sat there, her eyes darting around as if trying to process what this actually meant. No more bottomless spending, no more financial safety net, no more effortless luxury. For the first time in years, she was going to have to stand on her own, and she had no idea how. She sat in silence, uncharacteristically lost for words. She wasn't used to hearing no. But the quiet didn't last. Her eyes flashed with anger. You can't just do this, she snapped, pushing herself up from the couch. You can't just wake up one day and decide to cut me off. We're married. I leaned back, arms crossed. Are we? That landed. I saw it in the way her posture stiffened, though she refused to back down. Of course we are, and in a marriage, the husband is supposed to provide. I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. That's the real problem, isn't it? I've been giving endlessly, and you've been taking without hesitation. This isn't a marriage, it's a one-sided transaction. Her expression contorted with frustration. You're being ridiculous. You're acting like I'm some kind of freeloader. Do you even realize how much I actually do for this household? I arched an eyebrow. Go ahead. Enlighten me. Silence. I wasn't about to let that pass. You don't cook, you don't clean, you don't have a job, you don't contribute financially. You don't even put in the effort to plan anything for us. Every vacation, every meal, every thoughtful gesture, I make them happen, and you simply accept them like they're owed to you. I leaned in slightly. So tell me, what do you actually bring to this marriage? Her jaw tensed, but she didn't have an answer. I nodded knowingly. That's what I thought. She scoffed, shaking her head. Oh, come on. You're seriously doing all this over one stupid joke I made with my friends? I exhaled slowly, my voice cold and controlled. That joke wasn't just a joke. It was proof of something I should have acknowledged a long time ago. She threw her hands up in exasperation. So what now? You're going to cut me off? Make me suffer? That's abusive, you know. I remained calm. Number, I'm setting boundaries, something I should have done a long time ago. Her temper flared. You're punishing me. I shook my head. I'm protecting myself. I watched as the realization sank in. This wasn't a phase. This wasn't some temporary wake-up call. This was final. She tried a different approach, her voice softer now. Baby, let's talk about this. I know you're upset. I know what I said hurt you, but we can work through this. I sighed. How? Are you suddenly going to start contributing? Are you getting a job? Are you going to stop treating me like an ATM? For the first time, doubt flickered across her face, and then, just for a moment, I saw something I hadn't before. Fear. Not fear of losing me, but fear of losing the life she had built off me. That was all the confirmation I needed. No, I said, rising to my feet. We're done talking. I'm done being used, and you're done living off me. She crossed her arms, a last, desperate stand. So what? You want a divorce? I met her gaze without hesitation. I want you out. It hit her like a blow to the chest. You can't just throw me out. This is my home too. I nodded. Which is why I've already spoken to a lawyer. I'm handling this properly. You'll get what's fair, but not a penny more. Her mouth opened, then closed again. She searched for a way to argue, but deep down, she already knew the truth. She had nothing. No backup plan. No career. No independence. She had spent years living comfortably on the foundation I built, never once considering what would happen if it all disappeared. Now, that foundation was collapsing beneath her, and she was finally grasping just how vulnerable she really was. I could see the wheels turning in her mind, frantically searching for an escape, for a way to twist this back in her favor. And then, there it was, the performance. She sighed dramatically and sank into a chair, making herself look small, fragile. I didn't think you saw me this way, she murmured, her gaze cast downward. I thought we were a team. The irony nearly made me laugh. A team? Now you want to talk about teamwork? My voice remained steady. A team puts in equal effort. What have you contributed to this marriage? She swallowed, her voice barely a whisper. I support you. I've always been here for you. I exhaled. Existing in a house I pay for isn't support. You didn't build anything with me. You just enjoyed the benefits of my work. She flinched, and for the first time, I saw something real. Panic. But it wasn't panic over losing me. It was panic over losing the lifestyle. I knew what was coming before she even spoke. If you kick me out, where am I supposed to go? Her voice trembled just enough to sound pathetic. I leaned in slightly, my voice unwavering. That's not my problem. Her eyes widened, and I saw it, that moment of pure, unfiltered realization. She finally understood. I wasn't bluffing. Her voice cracked with desperation as she tried one last time. I can change. I shook my head. No, you won't, and even if you did, I wouldn't believe it. The vulnerability vanished in an instant. Her face hardened, her eyes burning with anger. So that's it? She snapped. The words came out like venom, each syllable laced with bitterness. You're just throwing me away? I refused to engage. I'm choosing to stop being taken advantage of. She scoffed, her lips curling with contempt. Pathetic. You really think you can find someone to replace me? I met her gaze without flinching. I don't need a replacement. I need a removal. Silence. Then, her last resort. Guilt. You know, she sneered, you're not the perfect husband you think you are. I put up with plenty from you too. I smirked. Oh, really? Like what? The constant financial support? The house? The vacations? The luxury? She had no real response. Nothing that mattered anyway. I stood up, walked to the door, and pulled it open. You can pack your things or I'll have them sent to wherever you land. Your choice. She didn't move, just stood there, staring, waiting for me to falter, to take it all back. I didn't. This was her moment to prove me wrong, to own up to what she'd done, to show even the slightest hint of remorse, to make me believe she actually cared. But she didn't. Instead, she grabbed her phone, stormed upstairs, and slammed the bedroom door with enough force to shake the walls. I stayed where I was, exhaling slowly, but the feeling that settled in my chest wasn't regret. For the first time in years, I felt clarity. No second guessing, no wondering if I was making a mistake. I knew exactly what I was doing, and why. Above me, I could hear her rifling through the closet, drawers banging open and shut. She was probably calling someone. Maybe those same friends who had laughed along with her that night, the ones who thought she had everything under control. Not anymore. The free ride was over. I walked into the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and sat at the dining table, the same table where she once joked about me being her personal ATM. Funny how things changed. 15 minutes later, she descended the stairs, suitcase in one hand, designer bag in the other. Perfectly dressed, nails flawless, hair styled like she was stepping into a high-profile event. The irony nearly made me laugh. She looked exactly like what she was, a woman whose entire existence revolved around luxury she had never earned. She stopped at the threshold, waiting, expecting something. For me to call her back? Apologize? Offer a compromise? I did nothing. She exhaled sharply, rolling her eyes. You're going to regret this. I leaned back in my chair, took a sip of water, and smiled. I won't. Her jaw clenched. Her eyes scanned my face, searching for any hesitation, any crack in my resolve. But there was nothing left to find. Her voice sharpened. Where am I supposed to go? I shrugged. Not my problem. She let out a short, bitter laugh, shaking her head in disbelief. Unbelievable. You're really just kicking me out like I'm some stranger? I met her gaze steadily. I'm kicking you out like someone who spent years using me and assumed she'd never have to face the consequences. Her laugh turned cold. Wow, you actually think you're better than me now. I smirked. I've always been better than someone who treats marriage like a transaction. I just finally stopped pretending otherwise. She stared at me, but deep down, we both knew she had nothing left to say. Nothing that would change anything. After a long pause, she adjusted her grip on her suitcase and stepped outside. She didn't look back, didn't say goodbye, just walked away. And just like that, the air in the house felt lighter. No more tension, no more manipulation, no more exhausting myself to sustain a relationship that had been hollow for years. I stretched, then wandered to the window. She climbed into a rideshare, probably heading to a friend's place. Maybe she'd call a lawyer. Maybe she'd try to fight for more in the divorce. But none of that mattered. I was prepared. My assets were locked down, my finances secure. She had spent years treating me like an ATM. Now she was about to find out what life was like without one. I took another sip of water, exhaled slowly, and smiled. Finally, I was free. Our story has come to an end. There are no villains or heroes in this story, just choices we make. To be an endless provider or a person who is valued. To live in the illusion of love or open your eyes to the truth. This story is a reminder that relationships aren't built on money, but on mutual respect and support. When one gives everything and the other only takes, it's not love, it's a transaction. And sooner or later, the balance runs out. No one is obligated to finance someone else's lazy luxury. Care isn't measured in bank statements. And if someone only sees you as a source of income, it's time to ask yourself the most important question. Is this a relationship worth staying in? Respect can't be bought. It's either given freely or it doesn't exist at all. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.